Is it easy to walk away from religion? The act is fairly easy, but the mind makes it harder. You know, we have people within our own group, and one in particular who is indoctrinated in one of the cults I've just mentioned, and yet she plucked up the courage and walked away. That person is 100% better for doing so. She will tell you that herself. Because once you step back, whilst you're in it, it's the same problem. When you're in it, you're in the middle of it. You cannot see what's going on. You become immersed and indoctrinated into it. But once you step outside and see it for what it is, the narrative falls apart. Like all the crimes, and there's several more I could have carried on for another 20 minutes of what the Catholic Church have been up to. But you got the gist of it. Does that sound like a program of positivity and improving your life? Because it's not. You join that because largely it's passed down. But as an adult, you then have a choice and a responsibility to the self to understand what you're getting involved in. And yes, information and knowledge has been short on the ground, particularly in the light of losing energy, which is what all of these religions and spiritual practices are about, feeding the dark forces. You cannot stand in front of me and tell me that these are operating for the light when you hear of their murdering rampages, several sacrifices year on year. It's delusion. Next, a little bit of word magic and some more religions. Worship, or is it warship? Described as a condition of being worthy, which is subservient for a start. Deemed as worthy because you follow the God who demands to be worshipped or idolized. Idol means image of a deity as an object of pagan worship. Their words, not mine. But an image is not real. It's only a copy. Source thinks you're all worthy. Fake gods think only they are. So war, W-O-R, is a reference to worthy. Then you add in the D, and it becomes the word. Add the M, and it becomes the worm. The original definition of worm was serpent, snake, dragon, reptile. Oops. Is the D or the M added to the word the Draco and Marduk? Perhaps this line has a different meaning now or makes more sense. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Oops. Then we have the second part of that word, the reference to ship again, the vessel again, maritime law, or maritime, to be precise. And no, Mari is not Mary Magdalene either. And neither is the Virgin Mary. Mari is another of their fake goddesses of doom and death. Did you know the picture of the Virgin Mary, or Mari, derives from French, France, and the term marionette, which means a puppet worked by strings. So the Virgin Mary is a puppet. But who was pulling the strings? Mumbo jumbo. That's something I hear too much in America, but it was used a lot in the back in the UK. And it's a term often used now as babble. In other words, lawyer speak. And yet this is actually an African deity. The name of an idol worshipped by certain tribes in Africa, and is said to be a corruption of words in Mandingo, also pronounced as Mandinko. And one reconstructed version is Mama Diumbo. There are no references to the word Diumbo, but one must ponder with the Mama, is this the African version of the Kali Ma? Ma is mother, Mama is mother, Kali means dark. Now their king or deity in these tribes in Africa was called the Mansa Musa, which is depicted in art as having less toes than us and feet looking slightly webbed. Check it out for yourself. And it is said that Musa was a devout Muslim, and his pilgrimage to Mecca made him well known across northern Africa and the Middle East. Only one problem for that is that Musa went to the Mecca in 1324 through 1325, and the term Muslim did not come into the language until 1610. Oops. Well, perhaps it meant he was Islamic. Well, that came after Muslim in 1747. Perhaps it was Muhammad. That was 1610 also. The Shiites? Nope, that was 1725. Their history is talking a lot of Shiite to me. And Mansa Musa operates under the House of Keita. There it is again, the houses and the letter K. And as a Mansa, they had the powers to dispense justice. It's the Thoth scales again. To monopolise trade, and in particular gold, which was prominent in the region of Mali. All sounds very Solomon to me. In almost eerily coincidental circumstances, the term Mansa is the name for two towns and a state, two temples and a Deva deity in India. And it's also the name of a Catholic diocese in Zambia. Connecting the dots again. Then we come to do a similar word to Mansa, and it does connect, of Mensa. So instead of M-A-N, man, it's men, M-E-N. And they are linked in African terms. But Mensa is also known as the IQ test group, which may be symbolic of wheat and chaff again, and perhaps we'll see why. Mensa is a dim southern constellation that is visible near the south celestial pole between the constellations of Hydrus and Chameleon. Hydra, Draconian and Chameleon, both of which are reptile groups. And that particular constellation is held to be a representation of the Table Mountain in South Africa. And the Table Mountain is a South African icon, and it's the only natural site on the planet to have a constellation of stars named after it. Mensa meaning the table. So what type of table are we looking at? Well, perhaps this helps. In Roman Catholic terms, Mensa means the top of the altar. Altar means a sacrificial slab for burnt offerings, to honour by burning sacrifices to the gods. Oh my. The top or central slab upon which the Eucharistic elements are placed, it is said. So what are the Eucharistic elements? The sacrament, oh my, binding again, of Holy Communion. The sacrifice of the Mass, oops. And the Lord's Supper, oh dear. The sacrifice of the Mass and the Lord's Supper has so many connotations, none of which are pleasant on the ears or the heart. Remember, we are, or as it's the case now, we're not top of the food chain. Another word which I revoke all consent to future events being manifested by this word is abracadabra. It is spell magic that, not surprisingly, came from Hebrewic origins. Evra kedivra, meaning I speak, therefore I create, and also has origin in what is described as a separate culture, except it's not, more illusion again, Aramaic. They used the word spell avad kedavra, meaning it has perished like the plague. Oh my, From Russia with Love is proven correct again. So abracadabra is a death spell. Consecrate is the next word we're going to look at. The act of separating from a common to a sacred use. Ritual dedication to God. But there is another word connected to consecrated in both German and Gothic that means consecrated and also holy. So the pi root of holy and consecrated is the word guile, G-U-I-L-E, which means deceit, wile, fraud, ruse, trickery, sorcery, and witchcraft. Consecrate. The act of separating from a common to a sacred, sack, red. Blood sack. Ritual dedication to God. And from that comes the word inauguration. Perhaps the president's sworn-in ceremony has a different meaning now, from common to sacred use, except they don't count the people as sacred. Consecrate and make holy comes up again with the term to bless, B-L-E-S-S. Old English, Bletzian, Bledsian, Northumbrian, Bloedsian, bless, to consecrate by a religious rite, which is a binding, make holy, give thanks, was a much later version. It stems from Proto-Germanic blodson, which means hallow with blood, mark with blood. From blotham, blood. Originally a blood sprinkling on pagan altars. That's the description of bless. So a blessing was a sacrifice on an altar for pagans in the church. And given it's related to blood, perhaps the word bless is a shortened version of bloodless, which is what happens after the ritual sacrifice at the altar. Consecrate and make holy comes up again from the Gothic Weihers, which means holy, W-E-I-H-S, and the German Weihen, W-E-I-H-E-N, consecrate, with the term victim, which meant originally a living creature killed and offered as a sacrifice to a deity or supernatural power, or in the performance of a religious rite, religious observance or ceremony, which is where the term ritual comes from. Writ you all. Or in legal terms, writ with a W in front, you all. Understand it now? When you add the word hood, which is stated as a soft head covering, to the words victim and priest, who are the hooded robe class, and join them together, then perhaps you will understand where all your victim and victimhood stems from. The priests. These priesthoods also operate in the courts, but known more so as judges. But essentially they are the high priest or priestesses, and this is the reason why they wear the robes. A public representative of the priest class is there to be feared, with their shipping docks on land, and throwing us, the vessels, into their docks, replete with their Freemasonic tool called the gavel. That's where that comes from. Passing judgment, just like the church. Hypnotizing, just like the church, with their spellbinding document, which means ship of the mind. Spellcasts abound, just like the church, with their gospels, pronounced go spells. In light of the word we used earlier, prescription, we have what is described as the placebo, said to be a blank-based pill that convinces the body to cure anyway, which it can, providing the person realises that all pills are bullshit anyway, once you have your own true power. A medicine given more to please than to benefit the patient, called the placebo effect. And then you find out the real meaning of placebo. The name given to the rite, here we go again, of the Vespers of the Office of the Dead. The name given to the rite of the Vespers of the Office of the Dead, which essentially means the underworld. So called from the opening of the first antiphon, I will please the Lord in the land of the living. Oh dear. Being bound by religiaire, this next phase of time will not serve you well. A heavy show in many ways, but a revealing show and a validation show. The fact that you've all survived all of that shit and are still standing should not be overlooked by you all. What a triumph over adversity that is. Your goal was not to seek out a God. The object was to find yourself and realise you all have source inside of you. Congratulations to you all for getting this far. Living a lie with the majority of people in your life was stated this week by one of the members, and yes, it is correct. We've lived the lie. You have not been you, and you have accommodated them, is the reality. The desire to fit in is a strong pull, but it is a damaging one for yourself and also your soul, which requires you to be you and sovereign, not a copy and paste of others. We are the icebreakers. We went to the lowest steps on the journey of discovery, came back to the surface with samples, but society or science of the people will not accept the evidence. And we ponder and wonder why. This can create reaction formation, but we have to be careful where our energy goes. Sometimes people ponder on their own inner work a lot, and sometimes that can lead to over-analysis. But over-analysis is a form of denial. To over-analyze means that you have the correct answer, but you refuse to accept it. And then you go on searching for an answer you would prefer rather than accept the truth. Remember that the truth is for one is not necessarily truth for another, and that the truth has a tendency to drive you crazy just before it sets you free. Perhaps what you once thought was craziness is simply what it takes to free yourself from outdated belief structures or beliefs. You cannot expect others to know what you are thinking or feeling, or to understand your moods and bouts of secrecy. They may think you're on a different wavelength entirely. You know you are. You may be difficult to approach or comprehend, and this applies in vice versa also. But seeking an answer of what is wrong with the people around you becomes a lesson in over-analysis and also denial. It's not the case of giving up on them unless they intrude upon, harvest or distract your path. It's just a case of letting them be and focusing your energy on you plus the people in your same frequency and your future. You set the right frequency. They have to find you. But the pool is much thinner, and you have to accept that. It is lonely on the right-hand path, as only too few make it. The left-hand path of the letter N, we covered recently, where the so-called illuminated ones were at the top of that left path. But that path has no gate. And the new world order they run is one of illusion. They think they are the top of a tree. But it's the Kabbalah tree of death. They have to fall to then begin an ascent to the right-hand path and the open gate. They have no gate. And perhaps the lesson for them is in the New World Order, or NWO. Perhaps Marduk was playing words with them with that as well. I wouldn't put it past him, he took the piss daily. And NWO means no way out. Oops. Being bound by religiosity in this next phase of time will not serve you well. I will leave you with a few lines from a song that encompasses right from wrong, the pain of separation, the loneliness of being in a small pool, the pain of the two worlds, and the promise of 2020 and its visions. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. I'll be back at 2 p.m. on Saturday for a THI special. I hope you all join me with that. It will be interesting, and you will have a role to play. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show, as heavy as it's been. But like I said at the start of this piece, the fact you've all survived that is the ultimate triumph over adversity. And perhaps you should give yourself, all of you, a bit more credit. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name is Thomas Williams.